I have a separate video where we break down Shaggy's van. He gives me a tour of the whole thing. So check that out if you haven't seen that yet. And enjoy the interview. Tell me your first experience taking a road trip that inspired you to live out of your van full time. You're almost 5 years now living out of your van.
Yep.
And you did a prototype run, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yep.
Tell me about that.
I had a Subaru Outback. It was a 2001 Subaru Outback. And I just had a simple build out of there. I think I spent about $400 on it, and it was actually pretty nice. I had like an Arctic cooler, I had a Weber grill, mattress, and a whole bunch of organized storage. And so I was able to put all that in there. And then I realized it's so much easier to sleep in a car than it is out of a tent and like camping and such. And so, and you can bring way more stuff, and it's more organized that way. So one of the first trips I actually did was about 2.5 weeks long out of the car. And I went from California, Tahoe, California, where I was living, to first I went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And I was there for about a week and a half. And I was able to, I didn't really sleep in the car, actually. I slept in a buddy's place, and then a couple nights I did in the car. And then from there I went to Utah, went to Salt Lake City, Utah, and spent a bunch of time there skiing. And then I went back home to Tahoe. And that was just an amazing experience to have like all of your belongings. You can still fit a friend in the car. You can sleep wherever you want. And I thought I wanted to live in a van before that, but that experience made me know I wanted to live out of a van. And so that summer, what I did is I worked in a restaurant and in a gym for the whole summer, and I lived out of that car, that same car. So I had no more lease, no nothing. And that, and then I met my first client, which allowed me to start freelancing on just freelance copywriting from my laptop, which is what I do, usually standing right here. But living the whole summer in the car allowed me to like save enough money and then start to figure out how to freelance.
You had decided, I want to live in a van, but I don't want to commit to it before I attempt it with a smaller vehicle.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I knew I thought I wanted to do living in a van a long time. And that means like I really wanted to build out a van, have it like very meticulous and organized. But of course that's like a huge overhead amount of money and time before you're actually traveling. So it's like, what's the quickest version of actually traveling to make sure I want to do this? And so that's, for me, that was my car. It was literally like a day, maybe 2 days of building. And before this I had like tent camped and done a bunch of other normal camping.
Sure, yeah.
And I'd even slept in the car, but I had no organized like build in there. So then that's when I figured I should build out the car first.
5 years in.
Yep.
What is your average monthly expenses?
$1,250 a month when I'm traveling full time. And so that's health insurance, car insurance, diesel. I usually drive at least 2,000 or 3,000 miles a month. Business expenses, groceries, skiing fund. So literally everything is $1,250 a month. The most common question I get is, where do you park to sleep? And that's actually one of the easiest things ever to do.
Why is that?
Because you can sleep anywhere. Like you can sleep, like that's a valet parking lot. I could probably sleep there like easily. I've slept like hotel parking lots, like just random hotel parking lots, friends' houses. Yeah. Like there's so many places, either like residential and commercial are like the two areas to look for, like residential or commercial. If you're in a city, of course, if you're not in a city, then it's so easy you don't even need to think about it. And that's usually where I'm sleeping. But the harder places are in a city, and they're honestly still really easy. And so if you're in a residential or commercial area, I just don't sleep in the bottom 10% of like pricing areas, like the bottom 10% of the economic value and the top 10% of things. So if it's really nice or if it's really bad, don't sleep there. Other than that, everything in the middle, like no one cares at all. And I also painted the outside of my van white again, just to make it look nicer, but it's also still very low key.
What was the color before you painted it white?
White. It was just like 20. This is a 2002, so it's been like 22-year-old white color. Versus like when you redo it, it just gets rid of all like the little scratches and whatnot.
Sure.
And I actually used truck bed liner.
Why did you do the truck bed liner?
So I can rub up against trees and never care.
Yeah.
And then also to clean it, you just use a garden hose. You don't need any pressure water or soap or anything. You literally just spray it. Or if it rains, then it cleans it very well.
I would think the dirt would cling to it more.
No, it cleans less. Because the gloss, it wants to cling to gloss.
Oh.
But here it just doesn't cling at all.
Okay.
So that's really convenient. So, okay, that is the opposite of the challenges, right? That's something that's really easy that most people think is hard.
Okay. Are there any other examples of that?
Of easy things?
Like things that people would think are a great challenge and it's difficult, but you've found it to be very easy for you.
Finding showers. They're everywhere. There's always. I mean, I took a shower in your place today.
Yeah.
For example, there's always a gym, and you can just use your email address to get a free week if you're in a new area, or you can just be a member of a gym if you're gonna be there for a while.
Yeah.
Co-working spots, friends, places.
Do you have a gym membership?
Currently, I do. Mostly, previously I would use Anytime Fitness because it's like the nicest gym. It's $50 a month, which is, in my opinion, very much worth the fitness and like workout equipment. You can go even cheaper if you only want a shower. Planet Fitness is like somewhere around $10 to $15 a month. That's the cheapest. I don't like working out there very much myself. You can't work out there, but like Anytime Fitness is like the quality of the gym we're in today, if not a little bit better maybe. And they're everywhere. And for $50 a month, you can get 24-hour access to all of them.
So okay, we said finding a place to sleep and finding showers is
Very
a lot
easy.
less of a challenge than you might think.
Yes.
Is there any other examples of that? Like maybe when you first started, you thought this is going to be hard, man. You know, this is going to be tough to. It's going to be tough to find a place to park, but I'm willing to gut it out and try it. You know, because obviously, camping in BLM land, camping out and finding campgrounds, that's pretty self-explanatory. That's easy if you have a lot of camping experience. But in more urban environments, you know, I would assume it would be hard to find a place to park safely and
not bother anybody.
But you just explained kind of the top and bottom 10%. Everything in between is you've found to be totally cool.
Oh yeah.
So that seemed like it was probably a surprise to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another surprise would be getting rid of things. So at first it's very hard to get rid of a lot of your belongings to become like more of a minimalist, and then after a while it becomes a habit and kind of a hobby to see like how many things you don't need. And so it's really enjoyable to just consistently get rid of things.
Like a fun game you're playing almost.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do I need this? When's the last time I used that? And like, even in this van's 108 square feet, and there's frequently times where I'm like, have I used that in a year? Like a shirt or like a jacket or like a tool, especially tools.
Okay. You tend to overpack tools as a just in case kind of thing.
And especially building it, you had to buy a bunch of tools to build it, and then after a while you're like, well, I only needed this tool to build it. And even if it breaks, I don't really need it to fix it. I can use other tools, like simpler tools.
Okay.
So like a table saw or like a miter saw or something like that. Like bigger tools are really convenient to like build with. But then once you're done, like if I needed to put in a new piece of cedar board, I could just use my jigsaw. Because it's like a smaller, easier thing to use. But if you're doing a bunch of stuff, like the bigger tools are nice. But once you're only fixing things, you just rely on smaller tools. The three hardest things of living in a van I found was community, like a lack of community. Everywhere you go, you have tons of friends and you can meet them very easily, especially if you're an introvert like you and I. But you're always on to the next friend group, onto the next friend group. Oh, did I say introvert? Oh, sorry, extrovert. My bad. Yeah, extrovert like you and I. Yeah. So yeah, community. But yeah, community, you're not lonely. It's different. Like, you don't feel lonely. You just feel like a lack of community, which is really weird you have to experience a lack of community to know what it's like, if that makes sense. Like, it's like I never envisioned missing it. The other thing is dating. I never spent more than a month per state, ever. Like, I'm always just bopping around. I'll frequently go back to the same states, like 2 or 3 times a year, but that's like not enough time to build momentum in a relationship. And then the third thing is starting another business. I find it I wouldn't go as far as to say easy, but I find it pretty reasonable to maintain whatever like work or business you're currently doing. But to start something new is like very difficult.
Like I need
more routine because you need a lot of time, and a lot of your decision-making energy is consumed by traveling, which is really fun and very like enjoyable.
Sure.
But when you want your decision-making energy go into a business, you want to go to like the same gym, you want to go to the same co-working spot, you want to have a routine, you want to have consistency. And when you're traveling all the time, your energy, like you just don't have, A, you have way less time in the day to build a business. B, all of your energy is going to other things as well.
Just regular maintenance of the home here.
That, but like also being like, well, where do I want to go skiing today? Who do I want to hang out with? Where am I going? Where do I go to shop? Like, I've never been in this town. I need to figure out where I'm going to shop. What I'm going to cook.
Getting the lay of the land, that sort of thing.
Everything.
Yeah.
And like all those little things add up to be a lot.
Yeah, it's almost like constantly moving can kind of be its own job, so to speak. I mean, half your days are spent in movement, which then is like, imagine, picking up an actual physical home, moving it to a new place, you're restarting your day, and then also trying to keep up your regular habits, routines, your your workout schedule or your daily work schedule, trying to keep all that going while your house is constantly moving around.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yeah. So you've found yourself now in a position to where you want to be rooted in one place a little bit more?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent roughly 4 years traveling full time, and every now and again I'd just hop on a plane and only have a backpack and go to like Asia or somewhere. But with this van, I was in North America, so U.S. and Canada, basically, just all over, mostly the West, but also the middle of the country.
And you were chasing, when you travel, when you're deciding on your next location, are you trying to, during the last 4 to 5 years, were you trying to see all of the U.S.? Was that one of your goals? Were you trying to see every state? You're trying to go to Canada, trying to cover everything? Or were you more so chasing, specific experiences? Like, I know how much you love skiing. So
great question, but both. So mostly like experiences. Be like, even if I've been to an area, if certain people or certain weather was coming in, like snow, or certain people of my friend group were coming in, that would be a motivator to go there. And then another big motivator would be I've never been there.
Yeah.
And I focus mostly on mountain areas.
Okay. And if you could kind of just quickly cover where have you spent the most time in the last, couple years traveling around the U.S. in your van?
Basically from Colorado west and north up to like Jasper would have been pretty far north, and Whistler has been the farthest north.
Okay.
So kind of like Colorado over to California, up to British Columbia, back over to Alberta, and then down. Like that's the box of most of my time.
Gotcha, yeah. So the Rocky Mountain Range.
Exactly.
And then a little bit farther west, like the West Coast.
Oh yeah.
Pacific Northwest.
Yep.
Montana.
Oh yeah, Montana, Wyoming, and Idaho are amazing. They're pretty rugged, which I love.
Okay, I gotta hear some stories about camping in the winter in Montana, Idaho, these very, very cold places. Because this van contains however many sheep's worth of wool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, tell me about camping in the coldest weather. What temperature was it outside, and what temperature could you get this place inside here?
Yeah, the coldest environment I've ever slept in was negative 30 degrees outside. And that was in Jackson, Wyoming. And that place is crazy because it's inverted. So it'll be negative 30 down in the valley where there's all of like the town and everything. And then up at the ski resort, which is thousands of feet higher, it's about 15 to 20 degrees warmer. So it'd be negative 30 right when you wake up, and it's only like negative 10, negative 15 at the ski resort.
Only.
Okay, of course that's really cold.
Yeah.
But like that's the first thing in the morning, so the sun hasn't risen or anything. So as soon as the sun gets up, it'll get to like single digits on the resort, which is still cold, of course, but that's like not like 8 degrees compared to negative 30 is like way different.
And you'll ski in those temperatures.
Yes.
Yeah.
About negative 15 to negative 20 is like you don't really want to be out below that.
Okay.
The snow's like bad too. Like it's so cold, it like is just sticky. Not sticky. It's just like really slow and grabby. It's like really uncommon to experience that. Yeah. But when you do experience it, you're like, hey, it's so cold. You're so layered up.
It's not worth it. It's not fun anymore.
You feel like the Michelin Man. So you're like, I'm prepared. Like I can do this.
Yeah.
And then you're like skiing. You're like, well, the snow sucks. So it's like two bad variables against you. But so one of those nights when it was negative 30, it was 70 degrees inside. So that's a 100-degree difference, right? Negative 30 outside, positive 70 degrees inside. And it was so cold when I looked on the outside of my van to grab some skis and stuff out the back, there was actually about a foot-long crack in the truck bed liner paint. The truck bed liner on the outside of my van had cracked because it was so cold.
The exterior paint
had cracked because it was so cold in 2 places.
Was that a tough repair? I don't know how.
No, I just didn't repair it.
Okay.
Yeah, I was like, I don't know. It's just cracked. Like, whatever.
So you waking up on a absolutely frozen morning.
Yes.
And there's a 100-degree temperature difference.
Yes.
Between the inside of your van and the outside.
And I actually have an outdoor temperature sensor right over there. And so I woke up and I like looked at it and it just had like dashes for the outside temperature. Like it just read nothing. Like it wasn't 0. It read just, it was incoherent. And so I was like, huh, that's weird. It's not working. And then I put on a couple bit of like some clothes, but not much, like a hoodie and maybe some snow pants, and just walked outside and like took a breath in and was like choking because it's so cold. It's like your lungs are just like frozen. Like it's
Yeah.
it's so cold. And then I like immediately went back inside the van. Was like, what am I doing? I'm like wearing nothing. And then I'm like looking at myself. I'm like, I'm wearing all this clothes. Like it's just that cold. And then I put on a bunch more clothes and I went and there's a temperature sensor nearby and it said -30.
Yeah. So that was your
like,
record.
Yes.
That is incredibly impressive that you're able to keep it room temperature, like a comfortable, cozy home
I
room
slept
temperature.
perfectly. Yeah.
And what do you credit that to besides the insulation?
There's a diesel heater right here. It's the very classic one, like the Chinese one. I think the Vivor is the brand I have. But I'm sure they're all made in the same factory. And so there's a vent right there. And then I literally just have the afterburner thermostat right here. And so you literally just turn it on and then you're good to go. And then it holds a pretty consistent temperature. And the afterburner is a really nice thermostat. It's like an aftermarket one. So I can like have extra settings and stuff on there. And then the heater itself is tied into the diesel tank. So every time I get diesel for the van for driving, the heater's also full.
Do you find any issues with condensation on the inside?
No. So fortunately, the wool picks up condensation, which is nice because now it's reducing condensation in the van. And then also the diesel heater, since it's a heat exchange, as in it's burning outside, and then there's a fan blowing across this metal box. And since the furnace is inside this metal box, burning outside, but all the heat is still on this metal box, and the fan is blowing it, it's super dry heat. And so the heat exchange is what that style of heat is called. And so it's super dry, which is really nice for drying out clothes. Like I don't have to try that hard to dry things out. Like I just kind of put them, like, put a couple things right here on the hoodie on the back of a chair, just things like that. Even if they're soaked, and I'll be fine in no time.
When you first decided to live out of your van, did you think you would make it this long? Did you think it would last for this many years?
That's a good question.
Like, I mean,
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Because obviously the amount of work you put into this is outrageous, right? And it's incredibly impressive, especially because you had I think you told me almost no prior experience with building,
anything.
with electrical, with
With
wiring,
plumbing,
with plumbing, with
nothing.
You had a little bit of woodworking experience, maybe,
Correct.
right? And so to put in all this work in this van, you had to have had a long-term vision first, knowing I got to do a couple years to make it worth it.
I wanted to spend a long time. I didn't set a number, but I would definitely want to spend a long time living out of it. When I was growing up, I would watch this ski series called Line Traveling Circus, and it was a bunch of dudes who lived in a van pretty similar to this one. Not the build similar, but like the van itself, like the Sprinter van, the T1N generation. So the same generation of Sprinter van, and they would just like have a handful of guys in the van. They'd go travel all around North America, like skiing and doing fun stuff.
This was a big inspiration for you.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
big, yeah.
How old were you at the time when you made the decision, I'm going for it?
I wanted to live in a van since I was 15. I made the decision to live in a van when I was about either 19 or 20. Mm-hmm. And I was actually living in the van with it built out full time when I was 21.
So when you were 20, 21 is when you did that trial run with your car?
Yes.
Okay.
Right as soon as I graduated college, I just spent the whole summer in the same town because I just had the same restaurant job, and I picked up a second job to make more money in a gym. One of the big mistakes I made, I thought it was going to take me 3 months to build this thing out and is where I am today. And after 7 months of building, it was livable, but it was not as nice as this. Like a lot of these things were not done. Like a lot of the nice to haves, like the organized space, the nice thermostat, like tons of stuff was not done. All the organized stuff under the bed in the garage, all that was not organized, as well as his bags and boxes. So like it was functional, but it was not very organized. And then because there's so much, like the point of it is to travel, and I also love building things. But like after building for 7 months, I was like, oh, I just need to travel. Like I'm so burnt on building. It was like way harder.
You spend 2 years building the van. You're not actually living the lifestyle that you wanted.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was working too while I was building it, part-time granted, but still making some money. And so I'm really glad it ended up that way, because every summer I'd spend like 2 weeks to a month of building time on it, and that really showed me like what I exactly wanted the van to be.
So over the years, you would dedicate a month or two to make some adjustments and some additions and some tweaks to the rig?
Yes.
Yeah. What do you think this project has, how has it improved your life? Not the aspect of living out of the van.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more so, I think, talking about the building itself.
Yeah.
Because you had to teach yourself so many skills to be able to do this. Having no knowledge of any of these skills we just mentioned, you taught yourself all this to build out your home. How do you think that's made you a better person?
It's allowed me to figure out how to organize my life around time. So that's the number one resource we all have, and I've been able to organize my entire life around time, of like, how quickly can I do things, how quickly can I change my mind to do the next thing, how less commuting can I do, how quickly can I go from I was skiing to now I'm working, how quickly, like, my time is so much more fluid than it was when I didn't live in a van. And then progressively building out the van has made it even more and more like fluid, and like that's why I've centered my life around time. And so, but the actual skill sets is like nice to be able to, like, when you live out of something that you also built, it's really easy to understand how you can make it better, because you know how you're living and where you want what and how you want it. You also know what's physically capable of being built. And so when you have a really strong connection between what's possible and how to do it, and what you want, then it's really easy to make the organized space to yourself. Versus if you bought like a pre-made Sprinter van, it's like way different because it's just generic. They punch them out. They're like, hundreds of the same.
And tweaking them, you'd have to learn how it was built out to tweak anything.
Yes.
And then you might run into some snags and some obstacles where you don't even know how to work around it because you didn't build it yourself.
Correct.
I'm sure you had people you consulted, friends that helped you out, like mentors.
My brother is an electrical engineer.
Okay.
So that was very, very helpful for all the solar and battery compartment and stuff, because he builds surgical robots for a living. So he basically designed a lot of the power system in here.
What kind of robot is he building for your van?
He doesn't build a robot for the van, just for a living.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Tell me about the solar panel.
Yeah, so basically from the fan back, I have 4 100 watts.
Permanently installed on the roof?
Yes.
Oh.
And what's actually crazy is they're literally taped up there.
What?
I'm not kidding. So what it is you have a solar panel, you have a little bracket that sticks down, and the bottom of the bracket's flat. And so what you do is you take double-sided tape. It's honestly more like adhesive than it is anything, but it comes in tape form.
Very strong tape.
It's called VHB, which is very high bonding.
I was pretty close.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it's in tape form.
Yeah.
But it's more like epoxy than anything else. Like it's very. I think it's 100-pound tensile strength every square inch. So if you're doing, I think each solar panel has 4 legs, probably about as big as my 2 fingers. So that's probably like, I don't know, 3 square inches. It's complete napkin math, but 3 square inches. You got 4 corners, so that's 12 inches. So that's like 1,200 pounds of tensile strength. In other words, something would have to lift it at 1,200 pounds upwards to break the tape.
And how did you factor in wind into that equation? Did you? I'm sure you thought about this.
But, well, it's like the wind could go underneath and above it, so it's not very high resistance.
You're not going to get 1,200 pounds of wind.
Yeah.
Unless you're driving through a tornado like in Twister or something.
Totally.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, and the solar panels, the size of them are only like 2 or 3 fingers tall, like the width of them. So it's not a sail. Versus if I had the panel upright, then now it's a sail.
Yeah.
But since they're like flat, like parallel on the roof of the van, then that way like the wall on the side of it is only like 2 or 3 inches.
So this very strong tape.
Yes.
You chose to do that rather than drilling and mounting.
Correct. Because I was worried about water.
Yeah.
Because I'm always in the snow areas, and any extra hole you drill through the roof is another chance of water coming in.
Yeah.
And so I actually did drill a hole in the roof because the wires, 2 holes. I had to get the wires from all the solar panels to go inside the van to then go to the batteries. So, that's getting wires in without any chance of water coming in is a lot easier because you install a flange. It's kind of just like there's a rubber grommet in the middle, then it's hard plastic on the outside, and you basically just like tighten it like you would a bolt until it's like with a wire in the middle until it's like very snug. And so that way, like, water's not going to get in there. And then what I did that all the way, and then I just like put a bunch of sealant on it for extra precaution.
Have you ever gotten to a point where you knew that you were done? Like, no more additions, no more things you wanted to change? Or is it a constant process of like, I kind of want to pull this thing out now. I kind of want to adjust here, tweak this.
Yeah, so there are no more things I want to build in the van currently. So I finished it, you could say I finished it at the very end of July in 2023. So this last summer. And there are always going to be things I want to like modify. Like when things just change, you just want to modify things. Like I just want to kind of reorganize cabinets and stuff. But I built a lot of the cabinets I built in a way that can be reorganized. Like all these shelves right here that are on the ones with like the peg, not pegs, but like little shelf thing. Like they're basically like pegs you stick in. So if I want the shelf to move up 3 inches, I literally just move a couple metal things, like 4 for each corner, and then now I have a different size shelf, like different height
customizable
shelf. Yeah, so a lot of things are like that, especially in the garage. And so that the things are super easy to change. So I do a bunch of that. But there's not actual building that needs to get done. There's just like reorganizing, and I kind of do it every winter to summer, just reorganize things because you're using different belongings.
Yeah. Okay, I'm having fun. Are you?
Yeah, this is good. It's a good conversation. It's funny. All you need is a camera, or all you need is to record a conversation. And it's like way more interesting. Yeah. Because you're like, oh, someone or me will look back on this.
Yeah, totally. So, okay, then with that in mind, you're talking to your future self, and you're reflecting on these 4 or 5 years in your van. What are some things you want to remember about maybe? You can toot your own horn, man. Like, you can be proud of yourself. This is really impressive. So, like, when you think back about all the work you put in and the time that you've spent in the van, the experiences you've had, I know you're now, wanting to spend a lot more time in Utah.
Yep.
So be more stationary.
Yeah.
So, in a way, you're kind of closing that chapter, right?
A full-time
partially.
Travel.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can always open it back up, but yes, I am closing it.
Yeah, you're still living in the van, but you're going to be moving around a lot less. So, I don't know, like, just reflect on yourself. Like, what do you think about all that?
I think, the hardest part of all of it was starting, and specifically because I basically read the 4-Hour Work Week, and I was like, I always want to live in a van, but I had no idea I was going to make money and, like, travel. Like, I was just like, I'll work a seasonal job. I'll be, like, a firefighter or work in a restaurant, like, 3 to 6 months a year, and then travel the other 6 to 9 months. That was about as far as I thought. And then either my sophomore or junior year in college, I read the 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss, which is a super popular book. It's because it's amazing.
Yeah.
And I was like, in my head, I had never contemplated doing any sort of like office sitting desk job, like anything in that anything that was not physical. I was like, there's no way I'm never ever gonna do that. Like, not a chance. And then I realized that there's this world of people who travel the world full time. Some of them make insane amounts of money, and they all work like 4 hours a week, and they just do it right from their laptop with an internet connection. And I was like, man, anything that is not that can go f*** itself. Like, everything in the world that is not figuring out that lifestyle, I am removing from my life. Like, I'm all in on that. And a lot of the reason why it was so hard is because I've never met anyone who had done that in person. Like, it was literally like this book that was like, here's how to do it. And it was a great action step guide and stuff. But I'd never met any human being or even knew a friend of a friend who had done any sort of digital nomad stuff.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, not a chance. So it was like so intimidating. It was like, I felt like I was like a astronaut or something.
You're entering into this world without having anyone in your circle that knows anything about this. So the steps you're taking, people in your life are can't relate to that.
Yeah.
Right.
And then also telling a lot of my like friends, family, and peers that like, I'm gonna live in a van. I'm gonna start a company that provides marketing services and travel full time. is like people were like, you're an absolute moron. Like, get a job. You did great in college. You did great with your job. Like, you're a worker. You can figure things out. Like, just get a job, live a good life. Like, don't f*** yourself like this. And it was like everyone, like all the professors, friends, family members. It was like so much pushback because it was like I didn't even know what I was doing, but it was like they really didn't even know what that concept was. And this was in like 2019. This is like, you know, like there's the internet's been around for forever. Like, of course, making money from the internet is like definitely a thing, but it's like very much like no one I knew and no one who like really loved me knew anything about that. So it's like very like a lot. There's only a handful of people who are like betting for me, and even the people who were betting for me, they're like, I'm glad you're doing this, and you'll figure out a different path sooner or later. But it's like, I love you, so like keep doing this.
Right. Encouraging, but saying like it's probably not gonna work.
Yeah, but still encouraging.
Yeah.
So that was without a doubt the hardest part, because it feels like you're on an island by yourself.
Yeah.
Trying to convince all these people why you're right. Like it's like you don't know if you're a moron or a genius. And in the moment, it feels like you're a moron. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Like you don't like the absolute crazy psychopaths and the crazy geniuses are very much similar for a very long time. And then it's until like things in the future change, or like they just have enough momentum built that you're like, oh, that person's an absolute genius, and they bet every cent to their name to make this happen, or like whatever it is. They
bet
went
on
all
themselves.
in.
Yeah.
They went all in, but like for so long it was like you're addicted and just psychotic about something that's clearly not working.
You were saying that to yourself, or other
no?
people
I'm just saying in general, like that's like a very like insane people and geniuses are like very much the same. And so I mean I'm not that I'm a genius or anything, but like I relate to that in the sense that like, yeah, you just feel like a psychopath. You're like like everyone's telling me not to do this. It's not working out even remotely close to as well as I would have thought at the beginning.
Yep.
And you're like trying to make money, and then like I only had one client with my business, and then COVID hit and I lost that one client. So I was like back to zero after I was living out of the van, like within probably 3 or 4 months of actual traveling full time. So like because I was in November 2019, I moved into here full time, and then in March whenever COVID hit, so about 5 months, that's when I lost my client, and I was like I had nothing. I mean, like I had a little bit of money, but I think I had like maybe $1,200 at that point.
And what kind of work were you doing at that point?
Freelance copywriting.
So you had $1,200 living out of your van and one client.
And
freelance copywriting.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I lost that client.
Okay.
And then all I had was like $1,200.
Yeah.
And pretty quickly it became like $800. And then
when $1,200 is like a month, 1 month of expenses.
Yes, at that point.
At that point, okay.
Which is like not like that's very much cutting it close. Like, I was like not how I like to live, but at some point you got to just keep swinging. Then when I had like $800 to my name, I was like, all right, I just need to start selling shit off of Craigslist. So like any friend or family member, I went back to California too, because it was like a lot of people were not trying to hang out, especially as the traveler during COVID. Like I was the one who was most likely to be contagious or bring COVID around.
Sure.
Even though I was wearing a mask and stuff, it's still like a new thing, and a lot of people were afraid. So I went back to California because I have a bunch of friends and family there, and they're a little more open-minded. So that I could actually hang out with people. And when I had like $800 to my name, I was just selling like everything I could think of on Craigslist. Like either just reselling stuff, getting stuff from friends and family, and like selling it for them and taking a cut. Just like whatever I could do to like make money quickly, I was doing it. And then from there, then I got smart and I took a course, the Neville Medora copywriting course. I think I was mentioning it to you. No, I mentioned it to someone else this weekend. Because he's one of the buddies with like Tynan and Noah.
Okay.
But I took that course, and then he really showed me a lot about like copywriting and freelancing and like getting clients and having like processes and like good strategies for pricing and just everything you can think of. And that was like really what accelerated me. But it was so scary because it's $97 a month for the course at that time. And I have like not that much money at all, and I'm making ends meet, or I'm like getting a little bit of money from like just selling things on Craigslist, which isn't gonna last long. Like there's only so many things you can sell, and like I wasn't really flipping things. I was more of like selling things for people, or like my old things, or things I didn't need. So that built like some momentum, and then like through his course, I was like able to like get a couple of clients relatively quickly, and then I was like, oh, now I just have work and it's from my laptop, and then I started. Then I was like continuing to travel, and then from there I just like slowly grew and built, and then it was like, oh, like, this is actually working, yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, this is like actually working.
Yeah.
But But there's so long where it was like, it just felt like you're pushing water up a hill. And then a lot of friends, families, and peers are like, yeah, just stop doing that. Like, like you don't need to be doing this to yourself. You should do something else. Be a normal human being with a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And you're like, no, I'm not doing that.
Are you proud of yourself?
Oh, yeah. I love myself so much. I love myself so much, dude.
Hell yeah. Okay, so how much longer do you see yourself living into the van now? Now that you're going to Utah to stay put within this state for a while, but you're still living out of the van, you're potentially starting a business.
I am starting a business.
You are starting a business.
Yes.
Yep.
An events business.
Do you think the van will be something that you live in for the next few years?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm gonna live in it, and even when I have a serious girlfriend, I don't know, but I'm assuming she would have her own place, and I'm still gonna be in the van, and I'll spend like a good amount of time there. But I just love having all my belongings with me, because it's like as soon as you want to do something else or like last minute plans change, everything you own is with you. Like you have your mountain bike, your skis, your climbing harness, like all these clothes, nice clothes to go out to dinner or something. Like everything's with you. Or if you're like, oh, the highway just shut down because there's a massive car accident. Okay, I'll just sleep in my own bed tonight. Like you don't have to worry about anything. Like, there's no worries. Like everything's with you. And that is like one of the most priceless things. It's almost like living out of a backpack when you're traveling full time. Like it's just the ease of changing your mind or doing the next thing or doing whatever's the most fun in that moment is just cranked up to 12. And the van is like that as well.
I know that feeling camping out of my truck where, you know, when I roll into a campsite, I don't have to set anything up. The only thing I pull out is a camping chair, maybe. You know, like so if you want to pack up camp and leave, it takes 10 seconds, and for you don't have to pull anything out. So you can just
turn a key.
Turn a key and go.
Making money online is one of the most freeing abilities, like is one of the most freeing skill sets that our time has access to. Because being a digital nomad, like all you have to do is open up your laptop, and like then you could be working anywhere. And especially as a freelancer, when you have like a process of getting new clients and you can work with new people, like you can spit out work any way you want, and that makes you extremely resilient. Because even if I like lost all my short-term savings like that, like tomorrow or whatever, something happens, I could like just I have clients now, but I could turn around, and if I had 0 clients and I lost all my money, like you just turn around and get more money, or like you can get an income very quickly. And like a service-based internet business is like the best way to go from 0 to 1. And so, not that I'm a master at that or anything, I've got a lot to learn, but that's like one of the most valuable skill sets of full-time traveling is making money on the internet. The thing that has actually benefited me and made my lifestyle more capable is my managing my money, like knowing how to save money, knowing how to track my money, knowing how much I spend. Like just there's like, what are the 3 skill sets? Making money, keeping money, and making money grow. Like keeping money, I would say, is basically a bigger skill set, a bigger value to you in full-time travel than actually making money. Even though making money on the internet is like very enabling, like being able to manage your money, track it, know how much you spend, like the $12.50 a month, and just like what, and then because you can go in and you can look at like how much you're spending money on, and you can really say like what has the most value to me. Like how much do I need to save? How much do I need to do this? Like how much do I need to save for this project, or for me to be able to have like a better short-term savings, like a year's worth of money, or like, and just like being frugal is the, I'm kind of jumping all over the place.
That's
but
okay.
Anyway, being frugal is like, that's the skill set that has enabled me to do this more than anything else. Like
frugal with kind of a minimalist lifestyle.
Exactly. Right? Like tracking all my money. Knowing where everything goes, like being able to get things for either extremely cheap or free is a huge thing. Like a lot of the best experiences I've had were insanely cheap or literally free.
Hiking,
hanging out with friends, like skiing. Some of the skiing has been really either free or really affordable. Like so many things, like experiences in Southeast Asia. Like there's been a lot of things, like all the best things, and all like your best friends, it's still free to hang out with them. I mean, obviously you gotta drive to them, and you're probably gonna be eating food all the time, but still, like the best experiences are also free.
Real quick, just so I have this on tape. What do you do for work right now?
I'm a freelance copywriter, so that's sales in the written form. So I do a lot of SEO and a lot of email marketing. So basically, I look at a client's website and I figure out how to drive more revenue to the website. And the first thing I do is SEO. So I'm like, all right, let's get more traffic. Let's get more organic traffic coming into this website. So now there's more visitors, there's more views on this website. And then from there, you also turn around and do email marketing to have more of these visitors, like a higher percentage of these visitors, contact the sales team or the CEO or whoever, whatever the sales process looks like. Just go to the next step from like awareness to actually being in contact with the team.
Do you want to talk about your next thing or not?
Yeah, totally.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called slcevents.co. So I moved to Salt Lake City. I still live in here to start an events company. And the main reason I did that is A, I wanted to start another business. Like I just wanted the challenge of creating and building something. And B, my favorite part of traveling full time is always the people. Like all the best experiences always come from people. It's not because you're in some crazy area by yourself. Like it's always like, I met this person, we did this together. Or like, it's always the people. And I'm extremely extroverted. And so I'm thinking that like the only way to have more of that feeling and experience that I loved is just to like bring all the people together and be more of like the organizer rather than like the one person who shows up to the group.
Sure.
Be the one who like brings the group together. So yeah, SLC events. Still figuring out what it's going to be, but it's the target market is 20 to 50-year-old entrepreneurs right now. And the next event I have coming up is on the 30th of March, 2024, and it's called Panel Ball. So it's half panel discussion, half pickleball tournament. We got Eric Allbest, who founded chess.com. So they bootstrapped that company and he did over $100 million in revenue last year. Then Austin Allred, who started Bloom Institute. They raised about $117 million to correct the educational industry. So it's like a coding boot camp. And what they do is they pay, you only have to pay, as a student, you only have to pay 10% up front. And then after that, you only pay money to that school once you get a job. So it's guaranteed job placement, and then once you have a job, then you're paying a small percentage of your income to pay off the $20,000 for the whole boot camp. So it's only $2,000 up front, and then the other 18 is paid out after you get a job.
Yeah.
Which I think is really cool. And then the third person is Tom Walsh, who's a professional skier, and he's like the announcer of the X Games and Olympics as well.
Okay.
So I just got, they're all like, one's a bootstrapped entrepreneur, one's a VC-backed entrepreneur, and one's a professional skier. Those are all people, in my opinion, who've created a very interesting life. So I want to put them on a panel to talk about like creating an interesting life.
And how does pickleball play into that?
Basically, I took a very popular event style, like an education event style format, which is a panel discussion, and then the most popular sport in the U.S. right now. And I put them together.
Okay, cool.
That's it, because I think like a lot of like conferences and meeting or like meetups and things like that, they get pretty dull because you're just kind of standing around talking to people, or sitting around talking to people. And having like a physical aspect with education, I think, is a very fun. Like it's just perfect.
Well, this speaks so much to the type of person you are. Very active, entrepreneur. You know, you like to learn things, and so you attend educational events, and you're just combining this with a sport now, with an activity. It's awesome. Okay, do you have any more reflections on van life that you want to share? Maybe with anybody who's just getting started, or anybody who maybe is a few months in or a year in and is feeling like it's not good for them anymore. Did you ever hit a wall like that? Did you ever hit at any point? Did you hit a wall where you thought, okay, maybe I'm kind of burnt out, I'm done with this?
Not done with living in a vehicle. There are points where I was burnt out on the van braking and like things like that, and you have to fix things. Because I've had things break when it's really cold outside. Like one time my coolant and my water pump on the coolant system broke, and fortunately it was like negative 14. So that means I don't actually really need coolant for the engine to still operate safely, but I couldn't drive very far. So then I'm like trying to fix it when it's insanely cold. So things like that, you're like, man, this. Like that is terrible. The wall, hitting a wall for other people. A lot of it's socializing too. Like socializing happens very easily for me because I'm extroverted. A lot of people that is not the case. So like figuring out like groups or like consistent activities to do to surround yourself with other people is a really good idea, especially when you're traveling full time. So skiing, half the time you're skiing, you're on a chairlift with 4 people in total, so you and 3 others. So that's a very easy time to socialize. Things like mountain biking and trail running and, you know, going to the gym, like workout classes in a gym or yoga classes, things like that are like a lot easier to meet people. And then one piece of advice I'd give to people who are about or want to start living in a van is walk before you run. You probably, if you're going to buy a van and you want to convert it and stuff, you probably have a car already, and go ahead and spend like a lot of time sleeping in that car, like traveling. Like, don't just sleep in your driveway in the car. Go like you know, go out camping, go out adventuring. Because honestly, like if you couldn't spend a month in your car with a simple build in like, you know, summer weather, you're not going to be able to spend years in a nice van.
It doesn't even matter how nice the van is.
Yes.
Right.
Like it's very much like if you spend $200,000 on a Sprinter build and it's insanely nice and cutting edge and all that, you're still living in a vehicle. And like there's certain things of living in a vehicle that you just can't avoid because it's a vehicle.
Yep.
Like finding somewhere to park every night.
I'm not familiar with the stories of van lifers that have run into trouble, but I think you were telling me something about how some people that don't take the approach of walk before you run, like you said, get this really nice van and live in it for a few weeks and realize, I hate this.
Yeah. And then you just bought a new van or something and you're out quite a bit of money and you realize that like your dream was, well, is this kind of inaccurate? Like it wasn't for you. It was more like something that you thought was cool because you saw other people do it, not because you wanted to do it yourself. And it's really hard to know until you've done these things. Like it's very common for humans to be like, I want this, because you're like modeling after other people and you see what's possible, which is very completely normal and fine. And then when you do it yourself, you're like, oh, it's not what it's like dreamed up to be about. Another thing too is what's even worse is when people build the van themselves. So some people will spend like a year just, you know, working a lot and building at the same time. And so almost all that money's going into the van, like the van itself, the building of the van. And then they start to travel and they only make it like maybe 2 or 3 months. And then they realize like, oh, like living in a vehicle just sucks.
Yeah, you spent 2 or 3 times the amount of time building it out.
Yeah.
Instead of living in it.
Yes. Right. And another issue is they just build it out like they think they want certain things inside the van, and then really quickly they realize they actually just wanted less and more simple things, because like a lot of the van is being able to just get up and go. Like it's like how, like if I had a bunch of things I needed to set up in here, it would be so much worse. Like to leave right now, I like literally just need to turn around the seats and I could be gone. Like put away, you know, the camera or whatever. So it's like things are not out. But like a lot of builds are like, oh well, like we posted up, so we had to like there's like so many things that they just like set up. They set up their bed, like this couch, like the whole kitchen area, and they have all these like flowers and stuff everywhere. And that's definitely like more beautiful and looks more attractive to the eye. Convenience of like switching from what you're doing to driving is like that time is like crucial. You want it to be as small as possible.
So you would say test out camping and traveling and sleeping out of your vehicle, whatever vehicle you have.
Whatever you currently have.
And then do a very simple build out at first just to get started, and then slowly add and tweak as you go, so that the experience of living out of the van teaches you what you actually want in it.
Yeah, that would work for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean at first just the car, because you already have one. You could like literally, you don't even need to spend money, but if you spent like $100 to $300 on building it out with just some organized stuff, would be like really nice. Like it would be like very convenient, and that would be great. And then once you actually do have a van and you've like settled on the stage of getting a van, then like what you're saying of like build it most of the way out, like make sure you have power, make sure you have water and like things like that. They're like comfortable.
The basic
and nice.
Necessities.
Yes.
But don't go all crazy.
Yes. Don't do all the organized space.
Okay.
Don't make it super beautiful. Don't spend any time on like the art or like the pretty stuff. Just the bare necessities. And then that way when you're traveling, you know what you want. Like you traveling will tell you what you actually want, because what you think you want and what you actually want are like so different. It's crazy.
Okay.
It's so hard to know. Like I've never met anyone who actually knows.
Do you have an example of that with the van? of something that you thought you wanted, and then turns out as you lived in the van and you gained more experience with it, you did not want that thing?
Yeah, a lot of bigger storage space. Like I wanted these massive shelves. I wanted this to be like way lower and like longer underneath the bed. I wanted a lot more like storage, just like more stuff crammed in there. And that I realized I just didn't like. I wanted the free space in the van that was more valuable to me, and just consistently getting rid of things.
Okay.
Is like nice.
Yeah.
And there's even things in here, like a lot of these gloves up here. I don't need them, but I still have open baskets. So as long as I've got some open baskets, I don't know. Maybe I'll get rid of stuff. I'm always getting rid of stuff, but it's always hard to know.
You have open baskets, man. That's
Yeah.
you have more room to grow, more clothes to add or whatever. Yeah.
Totally. Cool. Another thing is I wanted a standing shower right here, but it would be like something that was like collapsible that you'd like tuck away and then pull out just to use. I'm really glad I didn't do that because there's not that much room here. Any sort of thing that you're standing on, you'd be elevated, so my head would be hitting the ceiling. So it'd be like a crouch shower thing. But in my head, I was like, oh, I gotta have a shower because I need to be clean. And I've basically showered every day.
Yeah.
In 5 years on the road.
Yeah.
Because like they're just showers just everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Travel centers and gyms and friends' houses and
everything.
You name it.
Yeah. All the time. And I do have an outdoor shower, so that helps.
The outdoor shower, yeah.
So this is my goal wall. I have my 3 main goals right here. I find it best to only focus on 3 things rather than 20 things or even more, because that way you have like focus and discipline in your life. And then here's our like inspirational quotes and little tidbits that really inspire me. If I choose to follow my goals relentlessly, one of 2 things will happen. A, I accomplish my goals by living a fulfilling and joyful life because of the journey towards them. Or B, I will lie on my deathbed without a single regret because I put every ounce of energy I had into creating the life I wanted. I will reflect upon my lifelong journey that was enjoyable and fulfilling. So those are the only 2 possible outcomes. If you follow your goals and try to live the life you want, even if you don't accomplish it, you're going to lie on your deathbed and you're going to be a very happy and fulfilled person because you know you did everything you could to make the life you wanted, even if you didn't accomplish it. And of course, there's the great side that you would actually accomplish them. And then I find once I've accomplished things, it's always like the process and the journey towards that goal that was the good part. Like the actual accomplishment. It does feel good, but when you don't have the next thing to chase after, you're in like a void.
What is the story behind the name Shaggy?
Yeah, so I actually recently legally changed my name to Shaggy. It was $62, and that's some of the best money I've ever spent. It was super cheap. I've been going by Shaggy for about 11 years. And what happened is like my birth name is Andrew Eels. And so I used to go by that, of course. And then one of my friends just started calling me Shaggy Taylor because I was always making clothes and like selling them to people and stuff. I just go to the thrift store and like cut things up and then sew them together to be like all cool and unique designs and like colorful and stuff. And he started calling me Shaggy Taylor. I'm like, dude, I love nicknames. Like, this is the best nickname I've ever had. And then a week later, I was like, oh, just drop the Taylor. Just call me Shaggy. And then from that day forward, every person I met, I introduced myself to as Shaggy. Because I really just wanted a nickname. And then that was in like the ski community. And everyone was like, yep, that's just his name. And I just didn't even think about it.
Tell me about the hair. Tell me about the style you have.
Yeah, so I got dreadlocks. I got those just about the same time as I got the nickname Shaggy. And I've trimmed them 3 times. But other than that, I've been growing them for 12 years. I've been growing my hair for 13 years, but I've trimmed them 3 times. And so I grew them for 2 years, from age 13 to 15. And then when I was 15, I got dreadlocks. And then from there, I've always had dreads since I was 15, and today I'm 26.
Any other quirky, interesting, fun facts about Shaggy we should know?
I've knocked myself out and woken up in a different state, skiing. So I was skiing at North Star, California, and I hit my head so hard, I woke up in Reno, Nevada, in a hospital, in a trauma center. That was actually the 3rd medical facility I've been in that day. News to me. I did not know that. So that's kind of a funny story. I've got a lot of fake teeth. I've broken the 2 front teeth right here through my bottom lip. So these 2 are fake. And then a lot of the other ones have like filling on the side because I've chipped them. So it's like, I forget if it's filling or cement or something like that.
In ski accidents.
In ski accidents. So I wear a mouth guard every time I go skiing. Because I've broken teeth in my mouth 6 different times. And sometimes you'll break 2 or 3 teeth. And I think I've got a great smile. But yeah, there's definitely some porcelain in the mouth.
Thanks for checking out the interview. I have a separate video where Shaggy gives me a whole tour of his van, so go check that out too.